How did a small garage and an engine that could barely climb a hill give rise to the most iconic motorcycle in the world? The history of Harley-Davidson is full of challenges, wars, and upheavals that shaped not just a brand, but a symbol of freedom and rebellion. Get ready to discover the little-known secrets of this incredible journey, and how post-war chaos paved the way for the creation of the world's favorite motorcycle. Before we start, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell for more stories that go beyond the obvious. Let's speed up this trip together. In 1903, in the heart of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, a legend was born. But contrary to what many imagine, its origins were not surrounded by luxury, nor with an infrastructure worthy of a future industrial giant. The story of Harley-Davidson began in a space so modest it defies imagination. A small wooden garage measuring approximately 3 by 4 meters located behind the Davidson family home. It was more of a shack than a garage, and yet it was there that the passion and determination of 4 young visionaries began to take shape. The garage, the first laboratory. The structure, made of simple boards without insulation and with a roof that barely protected from rain, was the place where William S. Harley and the brothers Arthur, Walter, and William A. Davidson put their ideas into practice. For many, it seemed impossible that such a precarious place could be the birthplace of something so revolutionary. There, they did not have modern equipment or sophisticated machines. The work was manual, done with basic and often improvised tools. The light came from a single lamp, and ventilation depended on a small side window. A small space for big ideas. With the tight space, every inch of the garage was used. A small bench served as a work table, where William Harley sketched designs while the Davidson brothers worked on assembling the parts. There wasn't enough space to store large components, which forced them to build only the essentials and often dismantle old prototypes to reuse materials. It was a job that required ingenuity, patience, and, above all, an unwavering spirit. The first motorcycle comes to life. It was within these narrow walls that the quartet built their first functional motorcycle, called the Power Cycle. Using a 116 cubic centimeter engine that they designed themselves, the bike was attached to a reinforced bicycle frame. It was not a perfect creation. In fact, the initial prototype failed on its first attempt to climb a nearby hill. But rather than be discouraged, the young men returned to the garage and began improving their design. A symbol of persistence. The garage wasn't just a physical space. It symbolized the essence of Harley-Davidson: humility, determination, and creativity. Years later, when the company grew exponentially, this small structure was dismantled piece by piece to be preserved as a historical landmark. Today, a replica of it can be seen at the Harley-Davidson Museum in Milwaukee, serving as a powerful reminder that the greatest achievements often come from the most unlikely places. A lesson in resilience and vision. The story of this garage is more than a historical curiosity. It encapsulates the entrepreneurial spirit and resilience that have defined Harley-Davidson since its inception. In a space that could barely fit 4 men, an idea was born that would transcend generations and become synonymous with freedom, power, and authenticity. If the walls of that small garage could talk, they would tell stories of sleepless nights, of failures transformed into learning, and of dreams that is not measured by the size of the place where it is born, but because of the strength with which it resonates in the world. Before becoming an icon of the asphalt, Harley-Davidson started with a more modest vision, creating a motorized bicycle for racing. In 1903, William Harley and Arthur Davidson weren't thinking about conquering the market. They were thinking about speed, performance, and, above all, to build something that was unique. The idea was simple but audacious: to create not just a vehicle, but a machine that could challenge the limits of what was possible at the time. The beginning, a prototype for competition. The first model, informally named Power Cycle, was designed to be a motorized bicycle with a 116 cubic centimeter engine. Inspired by motorized bicycle racing that was beginning to gain popularity in the United States and Europe, William Harley designed the machine with the aim of participating in local competitions. Harley's passion for cycling and his interest in mechanical engineering were the fuels behind the project. But there was a problem. The original engine didn't have enough power to compete. During the first test, the motorcycle barely managed to climb a hill, a moment that, in another story, could have sealed the project's fate. But not for Harley and Davidson. This initial failure was seen as a learning opportunity, the transformation from hobby to innovation. After the setback, the two friends decided to increase the engine's power and modify the design. They replaced the conventional bicycle frame with a more robust structure, capable of supporting the weight of the engine and providing greater stability. The new version, launched in 1904, was quite different from what they had originally planned. It was no longer just a motorized bicycle, but the prototype of a real motorcycle. However, even this second version was not designed for sales. The pair were more interested in testing their invention on tracks and impressing local mechanics and enthusiasts. It was a passion for design and performance, not a business strategy. The first customer, almost by chance, it was during one of these demonstrations that the prototype caught the attention of a local businessman who insisted on buying the machine. Reluctantly, Harley and Davidson agreed to sell the model for a modest price. This almost accidental moment marked the beginning of the commercialization of the Harley-Davidson brand. But even so, the idea of large-scale production was still far from being a reality. An idea that evolved into something bigger. The initial focus on competition performance gave Harley-Davidson a solid foundation, creating machines that prioritize durability and efficiency. This philosophy, born from a prototype that was not even intended to be sold, became one of the brand's pillars. It's curious to think that the machine that would give birth to Harley-Davidson was not created to conquer roads or markets. It was born from a passion for movement, engineering, and the adrenaline of competitions. A prototype created just for the pleasure of racing ended up paving the path to one of the greatest legends in automotive history. The lesson of experimentation and boldness. This story teaches something valuable. Not every great idea is born with a defined business plan. Sometimes success comes when you pursue something simply because you believe in it. Harley-Davidson started that way, and perhaps that's why it continues to inspire today. Harley-Davidson's destiny changed the moment it began to delight not only its creators, but also those who watched it in motion. A simple motorized bicycle became the seed of a legacy that would revolutionize transportation and culture. Global. Although Harley-Davidson is seen today as a symbol of American engineering, its roots hide a strong connection to European design. At the beginning of the 20th century, while the United States was still experimenting with its first automotive inventions, Europe already had a culture most developed mechanical engineering, especially in motorcycles. And it was from this source that William Harley and the Davidson brothers sought inspiration to create something truly innovative. Studying European pioneers, William Harley, the group's main engineer, was fascinated by European motorcycles, especially German ones, which were leading in technology at the time. Companies such as Hildebrand and Wolfmiller, which had created the first mass-produced motorcycle at the end of the 19th century, served as references. Harley spent hours studying catalogs from European manufacturers and even analyzing technical drawings of imported engines. He didn't want to simply copy these designs, but to understand how he could adapt them to the needs of the American market. The trip that changed everything. There are reports that, in 1901, William Harley took a trip to New York, where he had access to European motorcycles that were beginning to be imported. It was there that he saw up close the French de Dion-Bouton's single-cylinder engines, which were already famous for their efficiency and reliability. Inspired by this experience, Harley decided to incorporate similar elements into his own creation. but with a more rugged approach suited to America's less developed roads. The engine as the centerpiece European engines influenced not only Harley-Davidson's technical design, but also the brand's philosophy. While European motorcycles sought lightness and efficiency, Harley opted for something more powerful, creating a machine capable of withstanding long journeys and uneven terrain. This decision was what would later differentiate the brand from its rivals, but the basis of this innovation came directly from European engineering. A visual and functional difference. Another aspect inherited from European design was the attention to aesthetic details. Harley-Davidson not only wanted its bikes to be functional, but also attractive. The teardrop-shaped fuel tank, which would later become an icon of the brand, was inspired by European models that used aerodynamic designs. However, Harley reinterpreted it, transforming it into something larger and more imposing, reflecting American ruggedness. European DNA adapted to the American spirit. What makes this story fascinating is how Harley-Davidson was able to take European elements and adapt them to create something uniquely American. They absorbed the best foreign ideas and turned them into something that resonated with America's pioneering spirit, durability, power, and freedom. It's curious to imagine that, in the beginning, Harley-Davidson was an attentive student of European engineering. But instead of following the beaten path, it blazed its own trail, creating an identity that would soon surpass its own inspirations. The heritage that shaped history. Without the influence of European design, Harley-Davidson may never have found the perfect balance between functionality and style. But it was the boldness to innovate and reinterpret that transformed the brand into a global icon. In every Harley-Davidson motorcycle, there is a touch of Europe. But its true essence lies in the way those ideas were shaped to create something greater. Something that, more than a century later, remains a symbol of freedom and power. World War I was one of the most devastating events of the 20th century. But for Harley-Davidson, it represented a game changer. Between 1914 and 1918, the young company received an unprecedented order to manufacture motorcycles for the United States Army. It was an opportunity that would not only establish the brand as a reliable machine manufacturer, but also establish its reputation on a global scale. The call to serve. When the United States entered World War I in 1917, motorized transportation was still a novelty on the battlefield. Harley-Davidson had already demonstrated the efficiency of its motorcycles in competitions and civil use. But the government needed something more, a robust, agile vehicle capable of operating in extreme conditions. The Army saw Harley as a promising partner to meet these demands, adapting to the military scenario. To meet military needs, Harley-Davidson had to modify its production models. They created specific versions for the Army, such as the Harley-Davidson Model J, equipped with reinforced tires, greater fuel capacity, and tool racks for transporting supplies. Additionally, some motorcycles were adapted to carry light weapons and communications, such as the newly invented portable radio. These machines were rigorously tested to ensure they could withstand the mud, cold, and uneven terrain of European trenches. Harley motorcycles stood out for their durability and ease of maintenance, essential factors in a war environment. The impact on the battlefield. During the war, more than 20,000 Harley-Davidson motorcycles were shipped to Europe. They were used in a variety of roles: rapid message transport, reconnaissance, and even medical evacuation in some situations. Motorcycles have often replaced horses, which were previously the main form of mobility for these tasks. One of the most emblematic uses was in the messenger service. Soldiers known as motorcycle dispatch riders crossed war zones to deliver vital information between troops, often under enemy fire. Harley-Davidsons have gained a reputation for being reliable machines, even in the most critical moments. The military legacy and propaganda. After the war ended in 1918, Harley-Davidson had become a household name not only in the United States, but among the Allies as well. Veterans who had ridden the motorcycles on the battlefield took their experiences home, fueling demand for these vehicles in the civilian market. Furthermore, the company used this moment to reinforce its image, promoting its motorcycles as tested and approved in the most extreme challenges. As the world mourned the losses of the Great War, Harley-Davidson emerged as a winner in an unexpected field. Its motorcycles not only served the country, but also shaped the way the world viewed mobility and mechanical strength. A lasting alliance collaboration with the Army during World War I marked the beginning of a long relationship between Harley-Davidson and the United States Armed Forces, which would continue through World War II and other conflicts throughout the century. More than machines, Harley-Davidson motorcycles became symbols of loyalty, strength, and sacrifice. They not only helped win battles, but also won hearts, paving the way for a legacy that would transcend generations. In 1910, 7 years after the founding of Harley-Davidson, an icon was born. The bar and shield logo, which today is recognized worldwide as a symbol of power, freedom, and authenticity, was created under circumstances that reflect the simplicity and ingenuity of the founders. But what many don't know is that its origins have a curious history, full of symbolism and pragmatism, the need for a visual identity. Until 1910, Harley-Davidson had sold motorcycles without a formal logo. The founders were focused on developing their machines. But as the brand's popularity grew, especially after its initial racing success, they realized they needed a visual identity that would set Harley-Davidson apart in an increasingly competitive market. It was Arthur Davidson who insisted on creating an emblem that was strong, simple, and easy to remember. The idea was to create something that not only represented the company, but that could also be easily applied to motorcycles and promotional materials. The unlikely inspiration legend has it that the concept of the bar and shield came from a trip taken by one of the Davidson brothers to the interior of Wisconsin. He saw an old wrought iron sign in a local workshop, which featured a shield as its central element. The shape of the shield, associated with protection and strength, seemed perfect to symbolize the durability and reliability of Harley-Davidson motorcycles. The horizontal bar was added to create visual contrast and provide ideal space for the brand name. The result was a simple but meaningful design that conveyed the idea of solidity and resistance, characteristics that the founders believed were the heart of the company. The emblem registration. In 1911, Harley-Davidson officially registered the bar and shield logo with the United States Patent Office, ensuring its exclusivity. This was a strategic move, as competition with other American manufacturers, such as Indian Motorcycles, was becoming fiercer. The emblem quickly became a powerful marketing tool, being emblazoned on motorcycles, mechanics' uniforms, and even flags. The symbolism behind the design. The shield represents protection, something the founders believed was essential for motorcyclists facing the unpredictable roads of the time. The horizontal bar reinforces stability and balance, fundamental characteristics of Harley-Davidson motorcycles. The clean, straightforward design was a statement of confidence, designed to last as long as the motorcycles themselves. With simple strokes, the Harley-Davidson logo captured the essence of the brand: strength, reliability, and a direct connection to its values. In a world where images come and go, the bar and shield has remained unchanged, a testament to that classics never go out of style. Evolution without losing the essence. Over the years, the logo has undergone small changes to adapt to design trends and changes in the company's visual identity, but its essence has remained intact. Today, the bar and shield is not just an emblem. It's a cultural icon found on everything from leather jackets to tattoos. More than a brand, the bar and shield emblem represents a promise that whatever your destination, Harley-Davidson will be with you, bringing the same strength that has defined it since the beginning. A symbol that transcends time. The success of Bar and Shield goes beyond the motorcycle market. It is one of the most recognized logos in the world, and its history is proof that great ideas don't need to be complex to leave an indelible mark. At the beginning of the 20th century, Harley-Davidson was not the giant we know today. It was a young competitor in a market dominated by Indian motorcycles, the largest and most successful motorcycle manufacturer in the United States at the time. The rivalry between these two brands not only shaped the future of Harley-Davidson, but also helped define the direction of the motorcycle industry as a whole. Indian Motorcycles, the pioneering giant founded in 1901, 2 years before Harley-Davidson. Indian Motorcycles had already conquered the market with innovative models such as the Indian Single. The company had infrastructure, experience, and a large consumer market. In contrast, Harley-Davidson was still struggling to get out of its makeshift garage. To many, it seemed that Indian was destined to maintain its unchallenged lead. The beginning of the rivalry. In 1908, Harley-Davidson began to stand out by winning local speed competitions, a field where Indian was also strong. These victories caught the attention of the press and the public, positioning Harley-Davidson as a possible rival to Indian. Over the years, racing has become an important stage for rivalry, with both brands trying to outdo each other in terms of power and innovation. Aggressive strategies from both brands. Few people know that, behind the scenes, the rivalry between Harley-Davidson and Indian Motorcycles involved aggressive tactics. Indian even hired engineers who had worked for Harley-Davidson, trying to obtain technological advantages. On the other hand, Harley-Davidson invested in internal innovation, avoiding directly copying Indian models, but adapting ideas to create something unique. Both companies also competed fiercely for government contracts. During World War I, Indian secured a larger deal to supply motorcycles to the army, but the impact of the war hampered its ability to serve the civilian market, leaving room for Harley-Davidson to gain traction after the conflict. The difference in philosophies. Although they were direct rivals, the two brands had different philosophies. Indian focused on speed and technological innovation, while Harley-Davidson prioritized durability and robustness. This difference was reflected in the models. While Indians were fast and elegant, Harleys were designed to withstand long journeys and challenging terrain, characteristics that would end up winning over American consumers. The fall of Indian and the rise of Harley. In the 1950s, Indian Motorcycles began to face serious financial problems due to poor strategic decisions and a lack of adaptation to market changes. In 1953, the company closed its doors, leaving the way open for Harley-Davidson to consolidate its dominance as the leading motorcycle manufacturer in the United States. Over the decades, Harley-Davidson has not only survived its rivalry with Indian, but also learned from it. The clash between the two brands has driven innovation, solidified Harley's identity, and prepared it to become a global icon. Indian's return and new rivalry. Decades after its demise, Indian Motorcycles was revived, and today competes once again with Harley-Davidson. While the current rivalry is more friendly and market-focused, it carries memories of the early years when the two brands defined the motorcycle landscape in the United States. Rivalries like Harley-Davidson and Indian Motorcycles are rare. They not only fuel competition, but also build stories that inspire. And in the case of Harley-Davidson, this rivalry has proven that, with determination and innovation, even the greater challenges can be overcome. On the dusty roads of post-war America, a new cultural icon emerged. Harley-Davidson, which began as a durable utilitarian machine, transformed into a symbol of rebellion and freedom. This transformation was not planned by the company's founders, but it was forged on movie screens, in the streets, and in the spirit of the 50s and 60s. The Harley wasn't just a motorcycle, it was a statement. Association with war veterans. After World War II, thousands of veterans returned to the United States in search of a new identity. Many have found comfort and excitement in Harley-Davidson motorcycles. These men and women, accustomed to the camaraderie and adrenaline of the battlefield, formed motorcycle clubs such as the Booze Fighters and, later, the Hells Angels. For them, riding a Harley wasn't just an activity. It was an act of personal expression and a means of maintaining the sense of freedom they experienced during the war. Hollywood and the birth of the rebel myth. The image of Harley-Davidson as a symbol of rebellion was solidified with the release of the film The Wild One, 1953, starring Marlon Brando. Although Brando rode a Triumph motorcycle in the film, the bikers portrayed in the story were associated with the Harley-Davidson style. The motorcycle became a visual icon representing the outlaws and misfits who challenged authority and social conventions. The association continued in other films, such as Easy Rider, 1969, where Peter Fonda and Dennis Hopper crossed the United States on customized Harleys. The film captured the counterculture spirit of the 1960s, solidifying Harley as a symbol of personal freedom and rejection of social norms. The fight against negative image. In the 1950s and 1960s, Harley-Davidson faced a dilemma. While its association with rebellious culture appealed to young people, it also alienated more conservative consumers. The brand has worked to balance its identity by sponsoring family events and promoting its motorcycle line as reliable and suitable for everyone. Even so, the rebellious image persisted, becoming one of the most enduring aspects of the brand. Customization and Harley as art motorcyclists of the time began customizing their Harleys, removing parts, painting them vibrant colors, and adding accessories that reflected their personalities. This culture of customization not only reinforced the Harley as a symbol of individuality, but also turned it into a canvas for artistic expression. Each custom motorcycle was unique, a reflection of the soul of its rider. The lasting cultural impact over time, Harley-Davidson transcended its image as a rebel machine and became a universal symbol of freedom. Politicians, celebrities, and everyday people adopted the brand, broadening its appeal. However, the connection with rebel culture never completely disappeared. She is an integral part of Harley's identity, and one of the reasons she continues to be adored for generations. From solo bikers to road clubs, from Hollywood icons to anonymous enthusiasts, Harley-Davidson has become more than a brand. It is a state of mind, a manifestation of the human desire to challenge limits and embrace the open road. Rebellion that became mainstream today, Harley-Davidson is both a commercial brand and a piece of popular culture. It unites the past and the present, with one foot in the rebellion of the 50s and the other in modern design and innovation. Even when the world changes, some things remain constant. Harley-Davidson is one of those things. It continues to represent freedom, individuality, and, above all, eternal rebellion against the ordinary. The 1930s brought challenges that tested even the most resilient. The Great Depression, which began with the stock market collapse of 1929, devastated economies around the world. For many companies, it was the end of the line. But for Harley-Davidson, it was a test of survival, creativity, and determination. The impact of the economic crisis. With the economy collapsing, demand for motorcycles plummeted. Harley-Davidson, which until then had been growing, saw its sales drop drastically. The motorcycle market was considered a luxury, and few could justify this expense in times of unemployment and widespread poverty. At the height of the crisis, many American manufacturers, including Excelsior Henderson, closed their doors. To survive, Harley-Davidson had to adapt quickly. By 1933, its sales had fallen to just over 3,700 units, a critical number that threatened the company's existence. Diversification to survive. In response to the crisis, Harley-Davidson decided to diversify its production. The company began manufacturing industrial engines, which were used in water pumps, generators, and other essential equipment for farms and small industries. This decision helped offset declining motorcycle sales and provided a vital source of income during the hardest years of the Depression. Additionally, the company produced equipment such as motorized lawnmowers, an attempt to serve a broader market less dependent on recreational vehicles. The introduction of Art Deco design. During the 1930s, Harley-Davidson also made significant changes to the design of its motorcycles. In 1933, they introduced a new style, inspired by the Art Deco movement, with fuel tanks decorated with bold graphics and vibrant colors. This approach aimed to attract consumers who could still afford motorcycles by offering not only performance but also style. The 1933 line became known as one of the most visually striking in the company's history. Another crucial factor in Harley-Davidson's survival was the commitment of the founders and their employees. They took a conservative approach to finances, avoiding excessive debt and focusing on operational efficiency. While other companies in the industry succumbed to economic pressure, Harley-Davidson remained steadfast, even while operating on extremely tight margins. Coming out of the crisis stronger. When the economy began to recover in the late 1930s, Harley-Davidson was already positioned to take advantage of the new wave of growth. His diversification strategies, innovative design, and technology investments not only saved the company, but also strengthened it. It emerged as one of the few American motorcycle manufacturers to survive the Great Depression, cementing its position as a market leader. In the darkest moments in economic history, Harley-Davidson proved that resilience and innovation can overcome even the greatest challenges. The crisis could have been the end, but for Harley, it was the beginning of a new era. A lesson in survival and vision. The story of Harley-Davidson during the Great Depression is more than a narrative of corporate resistance. It is a testament to the human capacity to adapt and thrive even in the worst-case scenarios. When the road seems impossible, the real pioneers find a way to move on. Harley-Davidson did just that, leaving behind a legacy of determination that resonates to this day.